Sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, I wish we just turned the microphones the second we walk in. Me and Skeeter have just spent the last 20 minutes debating the free-to-air rights within Australia over the next decade versus pay TV. But we're not going to get into that, Skeeter, right? We're both rolled up. We're going to get straight in the footy. But actually, before we get there, have I heard correctly that you and I could be neighbours soon? Or?
No, I'm not being. No, that's not the case. No, it's not the case.
Wouldn't that be fun? Wouldn't that be fun living next to each other?
Oh, I don't know.
Wouldn't that be fun? Just crack the garage doors open, roll in there on a Sunday, Armo. Wouldn't that be fun?
Oh, I don't know, Scully.
I reckon you'd enjoy it.
Why in your situation? I think you're renting or you've bought the house?
We're just renting at the moment. Yeah. I'm not on packets of money like you. I don't have
why
the
should I try and spend $3.5 million next door to you so that you can look across the road and come to my place and take my beer? Why should I allow that to happen? And then basically become a second home for your beautiful boys.
I tell you what, we were talking about free-to-air and what it's done to our lives. I mean, you're looking at the house next to me. 3.5 is probably unders. It's probably about a $10 million house, and I'm hearing that you're in the market for it. But the way I see it going,
certainly not through
Mr. Free-to-air.
Right? Certainly not by the money I'm getting through the shelter as much as I love it.
So the way I see it happening is you move that, you sort that, the financials out, all good. You move in, then I'll just say I have permanent access to babysitters for my children.
Yeah, bear in mind, my children are getting to the age where they might actually have some kids in there.
No. And then you have just a permanent investing and sport watching buddy to come drink dark bourbon and shelters with you.
Yeah, no, well, that's not. I'm not sure I'm going to spend $3+ million to do that, Sco. I'll be happy to see you once or twice a year like most of my mates. I actually don't like being with people most of the year. I'm very happy to sit in my man cave and just to contemplate life.
FootyCast live from BackChat Studios. Yes, very good to be with you. FootyCast.com.au. Plenty of stuff going on. We had a great show on Thursday getting through some of the teams and reviewing their years. So we'll be doing the same this year. We've got the other 5 that missed the finals to get through. But plenty happening right now in sport as well. So we're going to go through a lot of that off the top of the show. The Left Coast IPA is just about out for shelter. It's a launch event down there in Busselton on Friday the 13th of September. That's right, Skate. Put it in your calendar, mate. Make sure you've got that in there. The final.au met with the guys putting together this grand final show last week. Going to be a huge event. Got special guests getting locked away as we speak. Big screens. I was there. They're doing deals on beer, and I saw the tequila bar, and they've got the investment lounge, Skeeter. So it's all
investment lounge.
Well, what do you invest in?
Oh, shares, property?
No, neither of those things. You know exactly what you invest in.
I invest poorly. I had some bad luck at the weekend. But anyway, we push on.
Okay, very good. San Francisco will be down at Shelter as well, November 8. And the NFL Draft League, we have made a selection. We do have a winner. So they'll be getting, thanks to the Hilton down in Busselton, put a night's of accommodation on, had lots of entries over the weekend. So we have selected a winner. We will be in touch. Thank you for everyone entering over there. Will Schofield, Mark Reddings. Let's get into the Shelter Footycast. All right, I'm going to start with a quick little well done to the AFLW West Coast team. That looks like a very different side to what I've seen over the last few years, Skeeter. So Daisy Pearce's first game in charge. They started really well, lost their momentum a bit, but then had to go win the game. So if anyone watched that with any sort of interest, you would have seen a very different side. So I think, again, I'm a big fan of Daisy Pearce's. I think her fingerprints are all over the rapid growth of that side because they've been no good for about 6 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did watch it as well. I watched the last quarter and I just watched the team just collapse before my eyes. From what I saw, Richmond picked up the ante and West Coast sort of went away from what they did in the first half. I would be loath to say that it's turned that quickly, but you know what? That's a really good start considering the base they're coming off. Exactly. So terrific there. I'd like to see a bit more evidence before I can just see that the improvement is
not going to say. Not saying they're going to win the flag, they couldn't execute basic skills last year. They couldn't apply pressure. They couldn't transition the ball, and they did all of those things. So I've seen enough to know they'll be competitive. They're not,
which is good. That's all they want. And the Dockers, conversely, Lisa Webb, I watched only briefly, but they were challenged late. I think up by couple of goals at three-quarter time against the Bombers, and they just kicked away. And Ty, I think, kicked 4 at last report that I saw. She's
a gun.
She's a gun. She's not Irish.
Anya Ty, yeah. She's a gun.
Yeah, she's... did she originally with Fremantle?
Yeah, I think so. And she's an absolute, jet, like takes contested marks, gets marks up on the wing, starts getting them deep as well. It's very good. Hey, back in AFL land, Christian Petrarca staying at Melbourne.
It's been bizarre, hasn't it? Look, we've been watching from afar, and Tom Morris has been the guy that's really driven this, and by all accounts has been right across the ins and outs and knows the whys and wherefores, and his management, as in Christian's management. Robbie Durazzi, I think, is his manager. Apparently has been suggesting that it's going to be very difficult from the outset to get Christian to another club, despite Petrarca making those noises. No surprise that for whatever reason, and probably because there's no way of constructing that this year. Maybe in 12 months they could, but yeah, just wonder what lingering effects that'll have on Petrarca at the club, with his teammates, with the fans, etc. You need to hear from him as well to see what was the reason.
We haven't heard from him either, have we? I mean, that statement isn't hearing from Christian Petrarca, is it?
No, we want
to done that better, or am I overreacting?
I would have thought, given the significance of the story, it'd be good to hear from him. And was it Brand Petrarca as part of the reason you wanted to go enhance your career with a big club? I don't think that was the main one myself, but
couldn't be.
There's got to be other elements there that otherwise he just, from the outside, he looks like a bit of a dick in that sense, the way it's been handled. Not saying it's him, but it just feels like, really good player, highly respected, but the public persona now of him has definitely changed, I would have thought, rightly or wrongly.
That looked like a gun in the back type statement, that thing that got put out over the weekend, blink twice if you need help, Christian, basically. Like, to me, and this could be just completely made up, he's told him that he wants to leave and been very firm on it. Trade me. No trade is there. Like, it's impossible to get done, and so he's fallen on his own sword. Because he can't just keep beating the door down, trade me, and then they're not going to get it done, and then you look even worse. So you may as well go, right, I'm going to pull the rug, as Tom Barras would say.
I don't have the exact answer to this question I'm going to throw to you, but is there a way that the AFL can tighten the parameters for a player like Will Schofield, who signs a 6-year deal 12 months ago, and within 2 years they want to bail out? Now, obviously, the club's in a position of power in that situation, but is there a way the AFL can tighten these contracts up a bit so it just looks like, big press conference, Will Schofield signed a 6-year deal. Well, so what? If it doesn't mean what the paper it's written on, then why are we getting excited about it?
Minimum terms. Like I'll just defer to the NFL. NFL does it with the big deals, then a minimum term.
So say a 7-year deal, I think Oliver, so 3 years, serve that, then you can at least...
So it's basically a 3-year deal.
Yeah, exactly. What is going on? Is it managers? Is it players? It's either the managers or the players that have...
27-year deal, 2-year minimum. Do you know what I mean? Like, seriously. I don't know, mate. Look, it's opening up. They've got to keep addressing this, because I don't think it's sort of working, but the power balance is probably out of skew with the players right now. So we look across, Cozzy Pickett's homesick, so he wants to go to WA. So there's plenty of chat that Cozzy Pickett and Shea Bolton are trying to get to Fremantle, which would be brilliant, I think, for Freo.
You'd take them both, wouldn't you?
Oh, mate.
Someone said to me, you need one.
No.
I think, and I do get the argument of the 3 first rounders get more kids in there. I think if you can get talent into your club, ready-made talent at this stage of their development, and they're not far away. I don't care what anyone says. I know they were poor in the last month. They are not that far away.
Cozzy Pickett and Shea Bolton would be their 2 best forwards, small forwards, not key forwards.
And if you've got Switkowski...
Yeah, so he'd become like a role player, Switkowski, and he's very good.
He can go through the middle, and exactly. So I'd be chips in.
Thanks for coming. Josh Battle, he'll move to Hawthorn via free agency, so they're going to have Battle and Barras as long as they can get that sorted. That's Battle, Barras and Sicily as their back line. That's solid.
Yeah, I mean, they are...
People are saying that they should be favourites to win a grand final this year, almost given their form. If you take the first 5 weeks out of it, then maybe, and then they're going to add 2 really key pillars to their back line alongside James Sicily, who I think at times gets forgotten all of this. Like, James Sicily is a very, very good player.
I don't think he does. I think he's regarded as no, seriously. I don't think he is underestimated. I think the importance to you can see when he's in that team how their roles are so defined. I've heard something on the radio during the week. It was about Josh Tracy. It might have been Chris Waterman actually talking about Tracy's absence. It maybe with the Dockers prevented some of the players from halfback just hesitating and because Tracy was often that player that they went to, whether it's on the wing or Yeah, it's amazing how one player,
Yeah.
and Sicily, obviously different player, but just how the team plays, and he's the centre point to a lot of that.
Yeah, I agree, and that's why he's captain. I'm sure I said it here. I was running my mouth everywhere with this one, but Jack Darling in North Melbourne, I saw that was an exclusive. I'm pretty sure I said that a few weeks ago.
Absolutely. I got a call last week. I don't know how strong you were going back whenever you said it.
Yes, I can't remember when I said it.
No, but I brought it up on radio on Friday, and then, yes, the West did something on Saturday, so I dropped Quarters a little message to say, it's not his. And I said, look, you know what? The thing is, in the media, because you say it 2 months ago and I didn't hear it, or the ABC said it, or 6PR said it a month before that.
We don't do exclusives here.
Don't we?
No.
Well,
We're not here for exclusives.
No, but if we have something we know is, pretty
What
fresh.
did you roll out? You rolled something out with and Ralphie jumped all over it.
Well, I rolled out the goal and mark of the year, getting big cash prizes.
That's right.
Yeah, did I get any reward for that? Probably not. In fact, I get 0.
Well, Jack Darling in North Melbourne 2 years. So a good move for anyone involved?
I think from the Eagles' perspective, it does give them a salary cap dump, I suppose, in terms of they might have to pay 150,000, whatever it is, of the 800. Brad Hardy said to me he's on $1 million next year. Does that sound right to you? Does that sound right?
I mean, if his deal was back-ended.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway.
$1 million bucks.
That's big
Far
dollar.
out.
Yeah, that's seriously. If you could play just a little bit better for longer, we'd be on your boat instead of sitting in a stupid studio.
Shot of FootyCast, bloody out in the Indian Ocean.
Whatever, we'd be enjoying the high life. Anyway, what were we talking about? Oh, yeah.
Jack Darling.
Jack Darling.
No, Jack Darling, North Melbourne.
I don't mind it from an Eagles perspective because you get that salary cap freed up. And how many games? Seriously, if the club's going to improve next year, he's not playing 20 games.
No, and nor should he. So I think if that deal's there and it can help the club, then West Coast should do it. I've heard that Jack is considering it. So
yeah, and I bumped
as he should.
Bumped into Jake Waterman at the footy yesterday. Didn't ask him about it, but drums are pretty solidly beating that he's going to stay at the club.
Yes, I've seen that.
So that
extension on the way.
Could be as early as this week, and good luck to him.
AFL Awards night. We missed this one, Skeeter, so we went in the morning on Thursday. I just want to throw a few of this stuff at you, so you agree, disagree. So Rising Star, Ollie Dempsey.
Yeah, I mean, given there are a few scratchings, weren't there?
Yeah, he thanked the tribunal first, which is very, very good. I enjoyed that.
Did he really?
Yeah, he thanked the tribunal and then a few others. Best first-year player, Harley Reid. So sorry.
It's it's like a doubling up. I know there's the
Rising Stars MVP and the Players MVP.
Oh, for goodness sake.
So, yeah, well done, Harley. Most courageous. I always find this one, back in the day, it used to go to like guys like Waters.
Bo Waters.
And like Callum Ward. And these guys used to back into packs ridiculously.
Get concussed 4 times a game.
How many times can you get concussed award? Now, like Zach Butters, he doesn't jump out to me as that guy.
Mate, he's the most fine player in the history of the AFL.
Yeah, that's
look, he's a gun. We know he's a gun. We're taking the mickey a bit.
What is most courageous, mate?
I don't know. I can't work that out. I'm just trying to think of courage and what form it comes now, because
it's no longer running back with a fly.
No, exactly.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, really. Brett Heady. Back in the day, you're too young. Yeah. Brett Heady sort of ball, and Jobby's going back there, mate. He's going to get killed, and sure enough, he
almost did one day. Yeah. I remember that one. All right, so Zach Butters, congratulations.
Courageous.
Courage.
Something I lack.
Still do. So do I. The least courageous, the shot of FootyCast.
Yeah. Jumping off a jetty in a cock jock. Yeah. That's about as courageous as I got.
You pin dropped it. You wouldn't even try and do a proper dive.
Where?
At the bus, at the shelter.
You know what happens?
You in a rash vest.
You do vertebrae damage.
You were in a rash vest and you wouldn't go off front ways. You had to do a pin drop. That's the courage that you...
Oh, sorry, Evil Knievel. Seriously.
Evil Knievel. Most courageous, Evil Knievel. I've lost the plot. All right. Compose ourselves. Best captain, Marcus Bontempelli. I like that.
Very cool.
I like it a lot. AFL coaches MVP, Nick Dacos. So I don't have the top 5 in front of me, but that one there was a bit...
Isn't it interesting, I was only on social media, so you've got to take this with a grain of salt, but Can Craig McRae sort of orchestrate that?
I saw that.
In the back end of the year. I mean, not saying he couldn't surely have that much interest in.
But the one with Voss and Thingo, like he won the game.
Yeah.
Dacos. So the carry on that particular game, so it was Carlton Collingwood.
That's right.
I don't think the voucher, so I don't think the coaches, so couldn't it have been Voss that gave him 5?
Could have been.
And then I was like, what is this game? I went back and watched. Mate, he literally won the game for them. So it's a 5.
Did he get maximum votes?
Yeah, he got 5. Oh, sorry. No, only one coach gave him 0.
That's right.
And one coach gave him 5. But I don't think it's clear which coach it was.
It couldn't have been McRae.
I think it would be more likely to be Voss giving him 5 and McRae giving him 0. Like that's usually how coaches operate. They give the credit to other people.
Other people, yeah, no. Anyway, I've got no issue with him being the MVP.
And the players' MVP, Marcus Bontempelli. I was asked a question on radio. What other than, I guess, a best and fairest, what would you rather? A coach's MVP, a player's MVP, or a Brownlow? And I understand that Brownlow has prestige, but I answered with player's MVP. If I wanted to have an award, I would want the respect of my peers before coaches and umpires. That's my opinion.
Yeah, but let me ask you this from a slightly different perspective.
Not monetary.
If you were to win a Brownlow medal, in all seriousness,
Yes.
financially, your stocks for years to come.
No, I understand.
So that
More, what does it not like? What's got the most respect levels?
Yeah, that's true. Look, and you speak to a lot of people, and you got one of the Quinella up. You talk about what would be the dream year for a footballer. A, win a premiership, and B, the B and F at your club in that premiership. Is that just about it?
I would rather a Norm Smith premiership.
Okay.
It means you've played your best game in the biggest game, and you've won it for the side over a best and fairest. Best and fairest in a premiership year is very good.
It's we're talking margins, aren't we?
But a Norm Smith premiership, I mean that's a proper, that's going on your bedroom wall type areas.
Yeah, it's we can't argue.
The coaches MVP, yeah, I just thought it was interesting. Marcus Bontempelli was 6th in that one. Couldn't 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, went Dacos, Cripps, Heaney, Sarong, Neal, Bontempelli. Be nice to see a backman in there if anyone would acknowledge any of that sort of stuff. And the All-Australian team was an out-skeeter. I was pretty happy with it, to be honest. I mean, this has been done to death a little bit, but I guess sticking with WA people, it was good to see Jeremy McGovern, Jake Waterman from West Coast, Luke Ryan, and Caleb Sarong from Fremantle.
I mean, well, there's arguments left, right and centre.
So Freo had 5, so Young, Clark, and Brayshaw were the ones to miss. I think they're probably fair.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty thankless task. You're not going to please everybody, and I mean, end of the day, I mean, they're not playing a game. It's done for some fans. Get right into it.
Did Jacko? You spoken to Jacko about this since he's done it? No.
Oh yeah, no. Jacko really enjoys the process.
Yeah,
and he does go into bat for the WA players. I know that. But some people really enjoy it. I know the players will get I said, bumped into Jake yesterday. I said, how did you enjoy your trip to Melbourne? And Jake Waterman said, yeah, so. But I said, mate, it's a great photo you'll have for the rest of your career, whether you make the All-Australian again or not. And
it's very modest.
Oh, yeah, he is. He was there watching his brother play. But yeah, for me, I don't get too caught up in the All-Australian. It just doesn't, I mean, it's like, what you gave me the best 22 under the age of 22 about a fortnight ago.
That was poor.
Yeah.
That's poor.
But All-Australian is still All-Australian, but unfortunately, we're one of those sports in the world where you don't get to play with that team.
Harris Andrews, for mine's the biggest snub. So I think he leads the league in intercept marks, leads the league in spoils, leads the league in first or top 3 in one-on-one contests, one or halved.
So who are the key backs?
Wiedering, McGovern, and Luke Ryan. Then unfortunately, I think it's probably Luke Ryan that makes way.
I'm going to say Luke Ryan's a player that I would have thought makes way for Harris Andrews. I'd concur.
But if you look at the importance to his team in terms of Luke Ryan, he held that back line together when they had no key backs.
Conversely, but I'm having seen Harris Andrews play over here.
He's been unbelievable.
And without him, you talk about important players. Down back, they're a bit skinny at the best. It's not like outside of him, they're a bit skinny. So there's no right or wrong, but there'd be a couple of players that probably think, gee, Sherry, he must have just finished a half a head away.
Correct.
From
Tristan
winning.
Cherry.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would have been good too. Hey, WAFL, Swan Districts defeat Peel by 17 and Claremont defeat East Fremantle by 24. Who impressed you the most?
Yeah, just quickly, I wasn't at the Swans game, but really happy for them because now they play East Perth in a second semi. I think the WAFL would love both or either. Obviously, one of them's going to get through, Swans or East Perth, because of the supporter base they've got. Swans haven't won it for about 14 years, East Perth 20 years. So that's a nice...
So that winner of that goes to the grand final.
Absolutely.
And the loser of that plays again, right?
Loser plays again in a preliminary final against the winner of Peel and Claremont. Now, Claremont were very good yesterday. They after quarter time, it was 11 goals to 6 against East Fremantle. Just before I give Claremont a wrap, East Fremantle, unfortunately for them, they haven't had a home ground for 2 years. They've been training all over the shop, so things haven't gone their way. They had the salary cap breach. So to make the finals wasn't a bad effort for them, but they just looked a bit cooked compared to a Claremont side that started 0-3, but they've really started to hit their speed. And apart from the obvious Rogers and Bolton, there's a kid that will, I think, create some noise draft-wise. His name's Hamish Davis. He kicked 7 goals in the last 2 weeks, including 4 yesterday, with 21 disposals. He moves well. He's come to Hale School, I think. Was in the Subiaco setup, but has found himself at Claremont. He's only played a handful of games, but I think draft-wise, if you're going to a little black booker, he's the guy that I think you'd be keeping a close eye on. This week, by the way, Peel and Claremont, Ollie Eastland, the ruckman there, he's having his best season, and arguably he's the best ruckman in the competition. He'll go up against Liam Reedy, providing Reedy plays. He had 65 hitouts at the weekend.
That's a few.
So there's a few. So, going to Mandurah on Sunday, Scully, for that one?
I hear the Freo boys were down in watching the Peel game.
That's a tough situation, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think they're trying to postpone their big celebrations until after Peel are done, could be
this week.
A lot. Well, it also could be a long wait if they keep winning as well.
I don't know. I wonder the dynamics of that. And you would speak better to this, but just in brief, when your AFL team's knocked out, your players, obviously your AFL players, and even those that have played a bit of Peel Thunder footy,
they're not training.
Are you invested as, is there...
No, they're not even at the club. No. So you just have a skeleton crew rolling around there.
Very hard for Adam Reid.
Yeah, it'd be pretty grim, I would have thought. Will Schofield, Mark Redding's Shuttle FootyCast. All right, Skeet, let's get into some season reviews of the sides we missed last week. We're going to start with our good friends at the West Coast Eagles, as we always do. West Coast and Freo first. So 16th position, 5 wins, 18 losses. I'll give you some positives first, Skeeter. They had 2 more wins than last year. They won 3 last year, 5 this year, so they've improved in that regard. Harley Reid, Elliot Yeo, both very good. I thought Jake Waterman, Jeremy McGovern, we've spoken about, All-Australian. And probably a couple of players from a list perspective to sort of take us a little step, I think. Brady Hoff, definitely. And Jack Williams, I think we saw him develop to the point where they kept Flynn out of the side, him and both Williams, Bailey Williams, Jack Williams. So I thought from that side of things, positive. Can you go with me on a few of those?
Yeah, I do agree. Look, they didn't get... This sounds a bit disparaging to say this, but they didn't get beaten by 100 points this year.
That can't be a positive. It's written in front of me.
I know. I say that with a bit of a tongue in cheek. Look, let's have a look.
Did they get better? Did they get better?
They got. I think you'd have to say they were better throughout the season.
Yeah, I thought they were a better side than last year.
10 to 15%. I don't know how much you can quantify it. Yeah, they were better,
more competitive for longer.
Yes, that's probably the right term. I think you and I called their game against the Sydney Swans during Gather Round. I'm pretty sure.
No, I was at the pub watching that, but yeah.
Yeah, so was I. I was at Crown, at the Crown pub. I think that's fair to say. They're competitive for longer, but they also still had quarters where they just completely capitulated. So there's so much work to do on that list, where they start and where they finish. Speaking of the list, we're now, a week and a half after their last game. Have there been any official delistings that I've missed?
That's a very good point. Not that I've seen. I don't know.
Every club hasn't put theirs out, either those that have missed the finals. But this seems a little protracted.
Well, I think it'll be held out until the new coach gets there, Skater.
To have, and if that doesn't happen, and bear in mind, Don Pike has sort of signalled that they might have to wait until a club or two is out of the AFL finals race for that to really gain traction.
So Tom Morris over at BackChat told us Friday, he said he went back and looked at it because he's been keeping a close eye on what's happening at West Coast with the coaches. He said almost every time, if the coach hasn't been announced before the first week of finals, that coach comes from a final side.
And the longer this goes, and because we know so little, so I haven't heard I've got lots of
So
names.
it may not be Guy McKenna or Peter Sumich or Mick Malthouse.
No, but
is what we're saying.
No, but Guy McKenna, I'm pretty certain will be at the club next year. I think
Yep.
did I tell you that
Alongside
last week?
Shannon Hearn.
Yeah, as a development coach,
Yep.
which is I think it's a really good appointment. But
So do I.
the longer this goes, the more I feel with so little getting out. And I know it's a subcommittee doing this that. With all these coaches, prospective coaches ruling themselves out or not even going through the process, that the Eagles have got something up their sleeve of quality. That's what I'm guessing, and it's only a gut feeling, but it just seems so strange we haven't had any inkling, which is, I guess, a credit to those at the club.
Montgomery, I think. That's what I'm hearing.
Really? I've heard from various sources, those more so at the Bulldogs, that he departed in acrimonious fashion and it would be a hard no from those types of people. But
You've got better sources than I do, Skeeter. So
look, you might be right, you might be crazy.
I might be wrong, and I'm more likely wrong, like I most of the time am here. Negatives, they sacked their coach. I don't think it's a negative, but there was new leadership in there. It's probably closer to positive, actually. Don Pike stepping in as CEO.
Yeah, I think he's trying to get the wheels back in motion.
Far too many... You know, I don't like criticising players too often, Skeeter, but there's far too many passengers and players that aren't up to it.
Well, I think you just summed it up. I was about to say, there's just not enough AFL quality players there at the moment in that group.
So then I would say, well, then who's that on? Has it been the previous administration? And I say that holistically, fitness, footy, admin, or is it recruiting? Is it the actual... is the player, is the culture? Because there's a lot of different things that goes into making all of this stuff. But if you sit back and do what we're doing now, look at the season, there just wasn't enough players that played well. And I don't like you can't sugarcoat it. They weren't good enough at all. Like not even some of them not even close to it.
And I think this goes back 3, 4, 5 years, maybe in that 3 or 4 year bracket where I just don't think their list has been. Developed, nurtured. Now, you're right. I don't think it's one person. I think it's, Adam Simpson has a role to play in that. The recruiting department, the fitness and condition. I think it's they collectively, the club has to put their hand up and say, okay, let's have a look at our development of the list in the past 3 or 4 years.
Got a lot wrong.
It's been poor.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone could argue with that. How you could get to that parlour state without changing something or getting that addressed before they have, that's a sad part from an Eagles perspective.
So even last year they finished wooden spoon. They get the number 1 pick and they get that right, Harley Reid. I feel like probably would have been hard to get that one wrong.
Yeah, and the question is, will he stay long term? Will he stay short term? But I think they've probably done the right thing.
Their next pick after being wooden spooners was 30 or 29 or something, and they tried to move up and they tried to get Curtin
and
Collard,
who went to St Kilda. They got nabbed, unfortunately, through the NGA with the Collard and Curtin. They got pretty close, but no cigar.
They just didn't get a lot right. Andrew Gaff retires. Tom Barris is gone, so their vice captain out the door.
Sad. He's sad that I'm not sure if you're going to catch up with him on BackChat or somewhere, hopefully before he departs, but. As a mate of his, he's a good man, and would like to see him sit down and have a chat and say, look, these are the reasons. I don't think anyone begrudges him leaving if that's his choice.
I think he'll definitely do that. I just think it'd be difficult without the trade hasn't been done.
Oh yes, of course.
You don't want to come out
put
and
the cart
say
before the
this,
horse.
this, and this, and then there's no trade, and then something happens,
Yeah, that's
and
true.
then you're suddenly at the club next year.
Yeah, I'm being a bit presumptive of the fact that something's going to happen.
Correct, which you think it does, but I think we'll hear from him after that trade gets finalised. Jack Darling, because I agree with you, I think he speaks well and he'll just speak his mind. Jack Darling, I think, will go to North Melbourne. I think that's close to done, that deal. Certainly if West Coast can get whatever they need involved in that, he'll be gone. Liam Baker and Jack Graham potentially in the door. Is there anyone else that comes in? But there's been lots of rumours, but they seem like the only sort of 2 guys. So they're not going to suddenly get better next year. They've lost more than they're going to gain again.
And draft-wise, I mean, where are they going to sit? Obviously, they're going to have pick 3 as a given, a first rounder for Tom Barris.
Yeah.
And where else do they get that high collab? I mean, even the Dockers have got 3 first rounders as we speak.
It's meant to be a deep draft, so maybe they're trying to collect some second and third rounders and try and hit the jackpot there rather than.
Yeah, it's even you look at some clubs like the Gold Coast Suns, you think the talent they've got available, what they're going to have at the draft. Yeah, no, the Eagles. a bit. Going back to Jack Graham, someone suggested to me he gets 4 years. What does? Am I missing something? Not as a character. Why would they be? I know Matty Clark comes from Richmond, and he obviously rates Jack Graham as a citizen and as a club person. Is he quick?
Don't know.
I don't think. Well, no, he's not quick.
So.
He's not quick, but he's a decent mid. Obviously, the free agency element comes into it with him. I'm guessing.
I mean, he's seen success. Could be a good culture guy.
Yeah, I've got question marks on that myself, but
they might get him for not much.
Yeah, that's probably the issue. But I said it doesn't matter if you get someone for not much. I just wonder what he's going to bring in a football sense next year. But you know what? I'll sit here in 12 months and have egg all over my
Jack
face.
Graham was a brilliant player. What a picker. Inspired selection.
Yeah, what foresight they had.
What are we giving them? Grade A through to F. D minus. D minus. Difficult to give an F, but very close to giving an F.
They're just a beeswax away.
Like there was the last 5 questions were all multiple choice, and they've just selected A on all of them, and they've maybe got a couple right by chance.
Yeah. No, it hasn't been great.
Melbourne, 14th, 11 wins, 12 losses. The positives, Max Gawn, another All-Australian to his list, and leadership and form. Like, he just continued to play outstandingly. I thought Caleb Windsor looks like an absolute gun.
I reckon some of the kids give them some hope. And then being a couple of WA boys as well, Trent Rivers, I thought really stood up when Petrarca went down.
Moved to the midfield, yeah.
Moved to the midfield. Jed McVie, I really like. Judd McVie. Yeah, I really like what he brings to the table as well. They've got some good kids, as you say.
Yep.
Yeah, we're talking positives here, aren't we? Yeah. So we'll stick on the positive side of it. But was there any stage this season? I remember round 1, they pumped the Bulldogs by 50 or 60 points. And he thought, we're waiting for Melbourne to get back to the form we saw in the grand final. And even the year after, for the first half of the season, get back to the... they've had 2 years of straight sets defeats in the finals. I want to see this Melbourne side. We know it's got the quality.
They harnessed the us against them early. I don't know if you remember, it was everyone coming because the pre-season was
pre-season. It was Joel Smith, wasn't it? I think it was on the agenda.
Let's get to the negatives. Joel Smith, Clayton Oliver, drug rumours, sagas, whatever you want to call them. I mean, Joel Smith's been charged, I believe, and I don't want to say anything wrong here, but he's been charged around that trafficking situation. Through Asada, Clayton Oliver, just absolutely rumours and innuendo floating around there with no pre-season, and then was sort of in and out of facilities, and then played most of the year. That was poor. Like, their season was on tenterhooks to start with.
Just feels like the whole year there's just been something bubbling in the background, and it's fascinating. I'm pretty sure Gary Pert came out this year and said the culture's as good as it's ever been at the
Our
club.
culture at the club is the best I've seen in my 40 years in the game, from Gary Pert.
There you go. I was just trying to remember it, and you've summed it up there, which Purdy, I think he talks a good game, but the reality, it's
spare me.
At that footy club, I mean, they're even talking now of Kate Roffey being potentially challenged as president. Stephen Smith, who used to play for the club. Yeah, you just know there's stuff happening behind the scenes at the club that need addressing. I think Simon Goodwin's probably safe, but I've got a feeling either whether it's the CEO or there'll be a change during the off season. I think they need to reset the club.
Am I wrong in saying Simon Goodwin was doing interviews at some point this year denying certain things, and this has never happened in the culture? Wasn't he under the gun at stages?
He was on the same interview as Gary Pert, so they were brothers in arms on that front.
So if for mine, there's a lot here, right? Joel Smith, Clayton Oliver, Simon Goodwin, Gary Pert, Kate Roff,
Christian Petrarca.
The president's interview last week was just a complete train wreck. Christian Petrarca. I think one of the biggest things they've got wrong is the messaging. Like, their messaging. I don't want to put the media team in the gun here, but the way they've handled what's been going on has been strange. It seems a lot of sweeping under the rug, and then, we're going to front foot it, but we're not going to actually talk about it. We've got stuff going on over here, and we'll put out a statement, and then everyone can just go away, stop asking about it. This is media driven. Like, their messaging and the way they've handled it, I think, has been poor.
And so, after all those little moments and incidents you talk about, perhaps that, in essence, is why Christian Petrarca, it has to have some basis on that.
Look at it all. We're naming half the bloody people that are running the club.
And you talk about falls from grace, and you can put the West Coast Eagles in that category. You know, after you win a flag, you expect to be challenging, hopefully the next 2 or 3 years. Melbourne, after having won a premiership, haven't won a final since. And look, they've made finals, but has the window closed for them?
Yeah, well, certainly they're in a different spot to we thought they were 2 or 3 years ago.
We expect them to win at least one more. When I say at least one more, I mean they're hard to win 2 or 3 in a little era. But
has their list changed dramatically though?
I don't think it has. Who have they lost? That I think they've maintained. But hey,
Ben Brown retired. He's a premiership player.
He's a premiership player. Yeah, fair enough.
I'm just being a little facetious.
You are.
Ben Brown will be on BackChat this week. Actually, could be on today.
Can you tell him you might have to put him out on Beaufort Street to start his run up just to get into there?
Yeah, so look, I don't know. Jacob Van Rooyen, I thought's been positive, his sort of development, but not much more for me, mate. Alex Neil-Bullen's out the door. He's going to Adelaide. Cozzy Pickett sounds like he's out the door. Petrarca wants out the door. There's
too many players wanting exits, and that's not great. And their forward line, apart from Van Rooyen, they need some support. That's why they were looking at Jake Waterman and others to try and bolster them there. Their midfield still looks good, but is the midfield, Maxi gone, I think, poor bloke.
So their backline's elite. Yeah. May Lever, McVie, and Co. So, and it feels like their midfield's meant to be good too.
Yeah, and they've got all the bones there, but
finished 14th.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. They get a D from me.
D. Gee, I couldn't give them a D minus. We're giving West Coast a D minus.
Yeah, true.
Look, D plus. I'm gonna have a D plus for mine. It's not very good, is it?
No,
not coming home to mum and dad going, look what I got, mum and dad, D plus.
And no one's going to pay attention to what we give them anyway.
Pin that on the board. All right, boys. Margaret Scoville will get your D plus. Here's the motivation for off season. Adelaide, 5th. I've seen that done before, by the way. Not you and I, but I've seen that done at West Coast. So that'd be good. Your mind faces up on the blackboard. Adelaide, 15th, 8 wins, 1 draw, 14 losses, right up there with one of the more disappointing seasons out of all the sides, including Collingwood. But Adelaide just so poor. Some positives first. Isaac Rankin, I thought took a step up. I thought, his development more as a part-time midfielder, more so, was very good. But he had hamstring issues, which slipped back into negative territory. Fogarty and Tilthorpe. Thank you. They'll be a forward combination for the next 10 years.
Yeah, and Tilthorpe started the season badly. I remember calling a pre-season game and he did his knee.
Yeah, against West Coast.
Against West Coast, yeah. So missed a chunk of footy. But him and Fogarty, I think Tex is going to stay around for another season to help bed that in. But, yeah, I think they're pretty well served in their forward half. And, in fact, there's, you talk about Rankin and they've got, their performances just belied what we thought was going to be a very promising year for them.
So negatives, they were expected to make finals this year after just missing after that controversial call. They started 0-4. They had an inability to win close games, and they became more defensive, and they struggled to score, which was a complete opposite of what they were doing the year before. And we spoke about it during the year about Adelaide looked like they've gone and tried to work on something they weren't very good at, which was defending, and they've gone too far the other way. And then it took them, probably till halfway through the year to figure that out. And overall, Matty Nix gets a contract extension during this year, and they'll be looking at that going, well, was that a good call or not?
Yeah. Oh, well, you got to look for the positives, I suppose. Are they in the mix for Lukosius to come back to Adelaide? Is Neil Bullen Port bound or Adelaide bound? Yeah, they'd be looking to improve on that basis. And I think they knocked over Carlton. You're right. When they were playing their attacking brand of footy, and I read an interesting article from Chris Fagan at the weekend talking about how Brisbane turned their year around, and he said, "Look, boys, it's a bit like let's just dance. On the frozen ice, let's just dance. Go back to expressing yourself and playing attacking footy, which they're good at, and that's what the Adelaide Crows are good at. So hopefully they return back to that style, because I didn't feel that was the way they went about it. They had some good wins this year, but too many times. What do you say? 14 losses. That's, some of those defeats were, and they got out of jail against Essendon. They were down by 3 goals with 6 to go. So, yeah, that's a pretty average year for the Crows.
I, as you know, Skeeter, keep my eye across socials and free-to-air TV and pay TV, and I like watching the media landscape in terms of what clubs are handling stuff well. And sometimes I don't know if it's chicken or the egg here, whether or not the good sides are having less to deal with, and so it looks like they're dealing with things well. Conversely, sides that aren't going well, they've got more issues and more questions to answer. So it looks like, I think, the messaging and the way things are handled are poor. But I think if we're giving trophies out like the MVP Coaches Award, most courageous, trophy for worst handled situation all
Richelli.
year, Josh Richelli.
Yeah.
You've got your captain, your coach and your vice captain, senior players bagging him in the media, and then you've got a forced statement with the gun in the back to George Dawson. He's basically reading off a sheet. You got Matty Nick stumbling his way through stuff. That's poor preparation and messaging. For mine, it's not the situation. The fact that they dropped him with a round to go, it was just a complete shambles. And that, for me, takes the absolute trophy for worst handled situation.
Yeah, I wouldn't put that on the media department per se. I think as a club, sometimes you do an interview and you're going to. I think the player or the coach, whoever it was, for instance, Rory Laird. I think I agree with you 100%. Going back a few weeks, you said, you don't come out and semi or even fully throw your team out under the bus. You protect him publicly. Maybe give him a reaming behind the scenes. But yeah, I think they hung him out to dry, Josh Richelli. And look, he's got some faults. He's got some heat in his early part of his career with running back with the flight of the ball, dropping his dropping his head a bit. So yeah, he's been amongst it. I think he's got talent. We know that. It's just being able to just harness that and from his perspective, hopefully he's not too bruised by what he received from the club.
You underestimate those, Skeet. This isn't a fault. Clubs spend so long going through this stuff, mate. They'd be having meetings on meetings. How are we going to handle this situation? What's the messaging? What are we doing here? It's not just, they're not getting door stopped, these guys. Rory Laird's doing a regular radio interview. Jordan Dawson was at a press conference. Matty Nick's at a press conference. You don't walk into those going, oh, well, whatever's going to happen here, I'm just going to say what I feel like.
No, the only caveat to that is that you're right. The club's told you, Scully, just stick to this messaging. You get asked a question on radio that is, and you're a bit more relaxed. I don't know. You know the guys. You do it every week, and you might misspeak.
I can't recall myself ever hanging a young player.
No, that's right. It's inexcusable in that sense, and I'm sure that wasn't his intention.
But all three of them did it. That's messaging, Skater. They butchered it, mate.
They wouldn't have been told, listen, go on to say that.
Nah, just you're right. Agreed. Look, honestly, that they were worse. They were worse than Melbourne. So D for mine.
Yeah, I'm going to stick in the D territory.
D minus. Oh, poor. So poor. Talking of poor, North Melbourne, 3 wins, 20 losses. We're going to whip through these, Skater. I mean, how much we can review these sorts of seasons. Give you some positives. I thought Colby McKercher, not that that's the positive, but he was very good in his debut. Should have been sort of higher in the Rising Star. I'd have thought George Wardlaw similar. He was second in the Rising Star. Harry Sheasel's a gun. Tristan Cherry's a gun. LDU is a gun. They've got talent. They've got list upside here, Skeeter. Charlie Comben went to a new level. They found a key defender.
Well, they need to find a few more because their defence is the. I know Griffin Logue's sort of had the injuries and coming back. That to me is there, and they've got to give Nick Larkey some help. You're right. They've got some good young talent there, but they showed a really nice patch through the middle of the season where they pushed teams. Obviously, Collingwood was the most notable one where they led by 54 but got rolled. 3 wins. That's for what we saw. And if you look back at the matches this year, you thought they were more competitive than that. I thought in matches than what we have seen the last 3 or 4 years. So, as Clarko said, they really did tail off the back couple of weeks of the season. I don't know. They're not going to get any priority picks. They just have to.
Well, they don't need any.
Find them. No, they don't. Of course, no, they don't need any. They won't be asking. They won't get any. So, I expect. I'm not sure what to expect from North moving forward.
How many wins have they had in the last 5 years? I've got the answer.
I will say
5 years.
In 5 years, 3. I'm going to guess 15. What? How far off am I?
Mark Reddings, you're a winner. 15 wins.
There you go.
15 wins, 91 losses. So I spare a thought for North Melbourne fans, genuinely. I know we have a bit of fun with North here, but people still go for them and still watching them run around. So, yeah, I don't know. Only question I would have is Alistair Clarkson. Are they committed to him? He's the right man for the job?
I think so. Why not? Okay. I mean, I'm not sure any other coach at the moment is going to.
So Jack Darling for me. Sorry to cut you off. Jack Darling for me is the answer to protect Nick Larkey. That's why they're going for him, to give him some help. You're going to have to put half a decent player on Jack Darling.
Are you?
Yes. I know people have been critical of Jack. I can see why. At times he's been moving not as well as we've known him to move. But if he's in a lineup and you're a back line, you're not just going to chuck a kid on him and go for your best. He provides a secondary target. That's what they want him for.
Yeah, possibly. Again, I've seen some good signs from Jack this year. Look, he's on 298 games and he'll get to his 300, we hope. But at times, you're right, it looks like Father Time's caught up with him.
Gee, imagine that. Playing your second game at North Melbourne and that's your 300.
Against the West Coast Eagles at Optus Stadium.
Is that right? Oh, no.
I know.
You got me. You got me. Oh, very good. Grade F.
Yeah, I've got a... Is there an E?
No, there's no E.
Oh, that's for Richmond. Sorry, they're coming up.
Why?
No, that's an F. It is. Sorry to North Melbourne supporters, because I'm a Perth supporter and I know what it's like to have a pretty average side. In fact, a very average side to support.
Richmond, 2 wins, 21 losses.
Hang on, have you seen the
Yeah, no, you're right. No, it was good. It was actually good material from you. Look, Skater, not a lot of positives. They gave a lot of players experience. They played 42 players. They're going to have
good draft
7 to 10 picks in the first 20 picks, like genuinely.
Yeah, I mean that's if you're going to do a rebuild, and that's where they're at straight away. How come the Eagles have never... I'm not going back to them. They've managed to find, and obviously you don't want to be losing Dan Rioli, Shea Bolton.
So where's the West Coast version of this?
Yeah, I'm saying, how come the West Coast never had 5 picks in the...
Because they've been loyal, I think. Probably overly loyal.
Yeah, exactly. So back to Adam Uze. Yeah, I hope people give him the patience that he deserves because...
Martin, Grimes, Pickett, Baker, Graham, Bolton, Rioli are out the door.
It's going to be a VFL side next.
So he needs some patience, doesn't he?
Absolutely. And the club needs to be patient. I think they will be with these draft picks. If they get it right, their bounce could be, 2 or 3 years away from being competitive. And that's what the draft's all about. That's why we, everyone tries to get those first rounders. In terms of positives this year for Richmond, they beat the Sydney Swans. They beat the Sydney Swans at the MCG.
Wow. They did too. I don't know. Was it MCG or SCG?
No, it's the MCG.
Wow, way. Give them a grade. Finish them off.
Well, it's an F.
It's an F. Will Schofield, Mark Redding, Shelter FootyCast. No, you've got another engagement to head off to, Skater. We'll just get a couple more questions out of you. Is that all right? If you want to send your questions in, send them into footycast@backchatstudios.com.au, or you can send us a DM on Shelter FootyCast on Instagram, or put a comment in the YouTube video below. As a West Coast supporter, all I hope when it comes to the next coach is that they are ruthless. There needs to be a shake-up and players need to be held accountable. Conversation needs to be had that if you can't stand up and put your all out there for 4 quarters every week, if you can't self-reflect, if you can't hold yourself to a higher standard, then you will be replaced or someone else with someone else who can. Goes on a little bit, but I thought it was pretty well said by Candace. She's a Royals fan, by the way, so she's very happy with the WAFL recaps.
Yeah, Ross McLean doing a good job. Just quickly, you had Adam Simpson as coach. Was he ruthless?
Yes.
Yeah, so all this, he was loyal and probably overly loyal,
and
I would have thought at times.
He speaks about that, and you can catch the rest of our chat with Adam Simpson on BackChat this week.
Yeah, I just think it's people on the outside saying that they're not ruthless enough coaches.
He's ruthless.
I mean, yeah. I think most coaches that have got quality have got a ruthless streak in them.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. The only positive out of Freo season is that they improved on their 2023 record, jumped 5 places on the ladder, and a 12-10 record versus their 10-13 record of 2023. But it was inconsistency during a few big games of their year. Big Josh Tracy with 45 goals during the season before his injury. I reckon if he can surpass 45 goals, he can be a contender for the Coleman medal. Midfield is good. Got a good brigade. Backline is good. If Walters and Fife should continue their careers, they should switch in between WAFL only, playing them during the home games. Do you agree with the Walters Fife in the WAFL?
I think the beauty is if they can boost their list to the degree, and whether it's getting Bolton and Pickett in, etc., that they've got players like Walters and Fife who take a backward step in terms of their roles. Now, that doesn't mean they're not going to play any AFL footy, but, yeah, there's there's no guarantee, which I think at that stage of their career, their last year of their contract, the last year of their careers, that's the natural progression. That's how you want footy clubs to move, I would have thought.
Yes. This one's on State of Origin and how it can happen. I'm going to save this for Thursday, if that's okay, Luke. Thank you for your email. I'm going to put that through to the run sheet next week. This one is in from Brearley. Ahoy, boys. Eagles Nuffy listening in from Canada.
Hey.
Hey.
A Canuck. Yeah.
Fellow Canadian.
Yeah, absolutely. The Maple Leaf. Giddy up.
The Maple Leaf. West Coast Eagles need an elite ruckman if they want to continue to win games. Our midfield went to shit when Nananui left. The reason, they were so used to having the ball fall into their hands that they didn't know how to work for it. With Bailey and Matt not being that kind of ruckman, do we need to make some big moves for a certain blue and red ruck? Who's that?
Max Gawn.
Maxi Gawn. We all know Tom Barras wants to make moves to Hawthorn, but surely a clean swap with him and Ting English. Maybe even to make it. So it might be a white, blue, and red.
Slightly old email as well, because this is obviously surpassed by what Tim's done at the Bulldogs.
Yeah, so he's signed on, is he? Is that right?
Yeah, for about 5 years, about 5 weeks ago.
Well, really wants to know thoughts, feelings, and concerns. So the biggest concern there would be Tim English has just signed a deal.
Yeah, that's probably going to make it tough.
But if we take Tim English out of the situation.
Oh, yeah, so I'm more and more, having spoken to coaches in AFL, about how much stock and how much importance you place on getting that elite ruckman.
Max Gawn, elite ruckman.
Absolutely, no doubt about that. Brody Grundy, elite.
Right, but I was trying. Brody Grundy's team finished on top of the ladder. Melbourne, best ruckman in the league, 10th or whatever they are.
Yeah, no good.
Yes.
Look, Damien Harvey, didn't he have an interesting way of going about it with his ruck situation? Ryan Grigg used to do a bit of... Sean Ryan.
Yes.
Where's Ryan?
Who's Ryan?
No, he's someone I know.
Cricketer?
Oh, could be anyone. He's in my head at the moment. Sean Grigg. He'll be tall as you or not?
No.
No, there you go.
No.
He was a pincher. I've seen Paddy Cripps win ruck at Optus.
But he is as tall as me.
Yeah. So I understand the Tim English line of thinking. I understand getting an excellent ruckman. I think that if you can have someone, as you've always said, can compete. Now, whether it's a Liam Reedy, a Lloyd Meek, for instance, is a great example.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to go out and spend all your cookies on a high-profile, big-name ruckman. I think if you can get a Lloyd Meek, if Liam Reedy could develop at Fremantle, dare I say it, West Coast might go, is there a player that we could, of that ilk, that we could get across? Not necessarily Reedy. So the ruck to me at West Coast isn't the be-all and end-all. Mind you, Bailey Williams, I think, he deserves a chop out. And Matt Flynn, is he good enough? That's the question to hold down a spot next year.
They should have enough players there, West Coast, to be able to get a competitive player out of one of those.
Maybe Barnett, the young kid coming through, hopefully 12 months down the track, he'll be right to go. So, yeah, I'm sticking with what they've got.
That's us, Skeeter. We're done and dusted. Mate, I'll just head home, get all your pennies together. I'm looking forward to you moving in next door to me within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to chatting with you on Thursday because we've had that week and a half off. Finals. Thursday, Adelaide Oval, MCG. Then we go to SCG, finish at the Gabba. So, yeah, footy's finals is what we're waiting for, and hopefully we see a cracking 4 weeks of footy.
Absolutely.